Hi everybody, good morning, namaste. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me in today's yin class, focusing on the lower body today. So we did an upper body class last time, and if you missed that, you might want to visit that if you feel like you're really needing some upper body work. So this is going to be a class designed to open the outer legs, the tops of the thighs, the inner thighs, the outer hips. So this is just a great all-around class for the lower body. And in yin, we do need some props. If you don't have them, they're not absolutely necessary, but if you've got a pillow, I have a bolster here. And again, I suggest that maybe you go online and buy a few props for yourself, because you can use them until you die, basically. They last forever. So I've got a bolster. You could grab a large pillow if you like. I also suggest you have a towel for cushioning today. And if you have, obviously, a cotton blanket, you can use that as well. Again, these are optional, but they just tend to make the practice a little more comfortable. Sometimes we can soften where we need to, like under our knees or under our hips. So that's something to think about. And also, I have 2 blocks, and again, that's optional as well. So hopefully you won't need them, especially if you're practicing on carpet. It might feel a little more cushy for the body parts that you might be supporting today. But those of you that have done yin before know that sometimes having the props is nice. So glad you can join me. Let's go ahead and get started. And first, I just want you to go ahead and sit in a pose called Virasana. And so here's where you could use a prop. If your knees are fussy, you're just going to bring your towel and place it behind the shins, and this is going to prop you up. So this can work like a block would here. Sometimes I suggest, sitting on a block if this is too intense for your knees, okay? So let's just come into the first position as I kind of talk to you about what we're going to do today. So you're just going to sit up as tall as you can here, and just go ahead and close your eyes. So you're finding a comfortable position for you. Those of you that can sit on your heels, please go ahead and do that if you can. And just rest your palms lightly on top of your thighs. And start to soften the upper body. So we're going to be here for a few minutes. So let's, again, prop ourselves if we need it. And then just closing your eyes, start to just kind of notice the sensations in your body. So first, noticing your breath. Just begin to take some really deep breaths in and out through the nose. And as you do that, see if you can soften somewhere in your upper body a little bit. Maybe the shoulders release down away from the ears. So the yin practice is the practice of longer holds of stretching. Takes a little getting used to sometimes, but the benefit is wonderful, and you normally feel really just really relaxed when you're done. When you're done with what we're going to do today, you're going to feel really good in the lower body. But there's a mental effect that happens when we're done. Our nervous system is very calm. So just a few more breaths here. The time actually passes fairly quickly in between, while we're holding the stretches. And The more that you do this practice, the more you'll notice that you could actually stay a little longer. And if you're doing this on your laptop and you feel really great in a particular pose, you could always just pause the video and stay a little longer if you want. But I'll try and transition us in and out at about every 3 minutes, maybe 5 at the most. And that's the basic standard time set for yin poses. So right now, obviously, you're working on the tendons and the ligaments around the knees. And we have a tendency to use and abuse our knees and not take very good care of them. So we're kind of getting into the supporting system of the knee joint itself. So again, if this is uncomfortable, you slide something underneath the thigh and in between the calf and the hamstring muscle there. That'll help to prop you up just a little bit. This is also great for the ankle joint. So you're stretching the tops of the ankles. Normally our foot is in a flexed position, so this is helping to elongate the top of the ankle and stretching the muscles along the tibia and the fibia, the top of the calf muscle as well. So just take a couple more breaths. Good. And then just bring your hands forward and move slowly when you transition from pose to pose, supporting yourself on your hands. Let's just shake the legs out. So just bring a little blood flow back in, and there may be times where you start to feel a little tingly. If you're feeling sharp pain in any pose, then you're going to change the pose and do something different. Great. And then we're just going to sit back, and you're going to actually extend your right leg and bring your left foot into tree pose. So just slide the foot as high as you can, whatever feels comfortable here. And you're actually just going to turn and you're going to face the leg now. So you're going to just kind of turn and rotate your torso so your chest is leaning forward of the thigh or the leg. And then just slowly lower yourself down. And as we transition, I'll remind you of this. So in the yin style, since we're holding the poses a little bit longer, what the idea that you want to do is to actually start at the beginning of the section of the stretch. So that might be way up here for you. This may be in a lot. And if that's the case, maybe prop something underneath your hips. You could take your blanket and prop it under. So I've got it rolled up now for that use. So you can see, you can use a large beach towel there. But prop your hips up a little bit. If it's hard for you to tilt forward, notice. So then you're turning, rotating a little bit, and just dropping your chin towards your chest. We're here for 3 minutes, so let's just hang out with the hamstring muscles. So what makes this practice so relaxing is that we are staying, but we're going in nice and gently. We're not pushing to our edge. Sometimes in our regular yoga practice, we don't visit the stretches as long, so we might push into our deepest sensation right in the very beginning. But this practice is different. So if you feel challenged, just know that you start at the beginning of the sensation and allow your body to let you in when it's ready. So it'll slowly start to move. You'll have a little bit of change in the stretch. And that's the idea. Just nice and easy. So here all you're doing is just dropping your shoulders. You could be feeling a stretch of the back body as you do this pose as well. And another option for those that are a little bit more flexible, you could actually take the tree foot and bring it beside you. So you may want to transition. So I'm into a bent knee position again, so that's optional. And you could actually slide the foot out to the side, or the knee out to the side a little bit when you do that, and then fold over. So then you're still getting the knee stretch, the tendons and the ligaments and the fascia supporting this part of the body. But you're also getting your hamstring stretch as well. So this is optional. Again, this is more challenging to do it this way. So do what feels good, especially if this is your first class or you're just beginning the yin practice. Let's stay easy. And then if you are in this position that I'm in right now, see if you can soften your pelvis a little bit. So the inner groin is going to soften down a little bit. And guess what? That was 3 minutes. So slowly rise up. So that happened really fast, didn't it? Good. And then just extend your legs. Maybe massage the bent knee if you needed that. Sometimes that feels good. And then slide the right foot into tree. Or if you want a deeper sensation, you're going to take a little bit of a straddle. This is a half straddle, and I'm taking the knee out to the side. But I'm going to turn and face the leg, and then slowly come down to the level of stretch that feels appropriate. So finding your position there, we're beginning the timing of this pose. And something I like to remind people of when they're doing this particular class is that this is your opportunity to notice the imbalances in the body. For instance, this side for me feels much easier. I feel like I can go a little deeper because it's my left side and not my dominant side, so it's less tight, obviously. So obviously if we're right-handed, maybe our right side is going to be a little bit tighter. Or if you have a job that requires you to be more active on one side of your body than the other, then obviously the side of the body that's required to be more active is going to be tighter. And that's just our body's natural reaction to supporting ourselves. You know, the muscles tighten, and so again, moving your chin towards your chest, softening the back of your neck and face, closing your eyes and tapping into sensations. And if you feel like you're struggling here, the idea is really to make sure that you're breathing. Okay, so the breath is going to bring about a sense of peace. It's going to give you a much calmer experience. If you're holding your breath, you're going to feel a little agitated. And your mind is going to probably be thinking, when can we transition to the next pose, kids? And all I can say is from experience having students in class that after a few times visiting the yin style, you begin to crave this class. This becomes something your body really likes and wants to experience. So it's like it recognizes what you really need here. So softening down. A good note to point out here too is if you had a block, you could actually rest your head here. I've got a block. I'm placing my forehead on my body, or on the block, and the block is on my leg here. So you could support yourself like that. Good. That was 3 minutes, and let's slowly rise. All right. Bring the leg around. Shake it out. Take a deep breath and let's shift into a straddle position. So I'm going to take my legs pretty wide here, and you can still face the front edge of your mat if you're on the floor, but I'm on a platform, so I'm going to shift this direction. This is a great place where props could come in handy. So you could also use a block. If you had a pillow here and you wanted to lean against your pillow, you could place your block and your pillow here and just hang out like this. And what feels nice about that is that the body can really let go. It feels really supported, so it has a tendency to release a little bit. So maybe try that. But I have been to yin classes where there's not a lot of props, so that's really optional again. And let's see if we can stay in our straddle about 5 minutes, okay? So we're going to go for 5 for this particular position. So if it's hard for you to tilt forward, you're going to bring your legs closer together, okay? If you feel like you're leaning back, you're going to take something underneath your hips like your towel, and you're going to place it and prop yourself up on top of it. And you might feel a little bit easier here. Another option would be to take blocks or pillows or something and prop underneath your knees if it's really straining the back of your knees, okay? So just giving you those options if you need it, so you can see where blocks come in handy, and they're very inexpensive. So, you know, order some online. I know we're trying to stay out of the public right now, but we can still get these props online. So by next class, you could have everything you need. My bolster cost about $30. My blocks were probably $10 or like $7 a piece, I think. You can also buy a cotton blanket if you would prefer to use that instead of a towel. If you are going to buy a bolster, I would buy one that has that shape that I just showed you. It's kind of a rectangular shape instead of the round. I prefer the shape. So from here, you're just feeling the inner thigh stretch. So we're just getting all parts of the leg, the hip today. So inner and outer thighs, hips, quadriceps, hamstrings. So if you like to run or cycle, this is a great class for that. So again, close your eyes, dip your chin in, support yourself however you like. If you can come down really far, you might actually have your head on your block or on the prop of your choice. If you can come down to the elbows, that could be your prop, just your elbows. Wherever you are, just know that it's perfect, okay? It's exactly where you need to be today and where your body is going to let you be. Yoga is not a competitive sport. I have so many people that will mention to me the reason why they don't practice yoga is because they're not flexible. And I have to laugh and say that I had the worst flexibility when I first started practicing yoga, and immediately I started feeling so much better in my body. As soon as I started committing to a practice, the results were astounding, life-changing actually. So we don't let our inflexibility hold us back in this practice, because we will become more flexible. Your job is just to get on the mat and experience whatever your body is going to give you for the day. An option to come, deeper into the pose as your body allows you to. You are looking to stretch and stress the muscles a bit, so the tendons and the ligaments are not as flexible as the muscles and the large muscle groups, but they do respond to tension. And actually, it helps to strengthen them. So if you're not feeling any sharp pain, then you can remain and might feel a degree of uncomfortableness, but it does not necessarily mean that you're hurting yourself. It just means that you need a little bit more flexibility. So if you feel that urge to back out for a minute or so, and then go back in. So as you practice with me more and more, you'll learn more about the meridian lines of the body too. So we are affecting the energy systems of the body too, the meridian lines, as we practice our yin. So slowly rise, just take a breath in as you come up. Then just pick up the legs and then maybe bring them out in front of you. Shake them out. Maybe rotate the ankles, bring in a little blood flow wherever you need it. You start to get to know your body really well when you practice, do the yoga practice. So from here, I'm going to actually take my blanket and I'm going to prop it underneath the center of my mat here. It's going to go right into the center. So I've unfolded it. It's not so fat. I don't really want that. And we're going to come into, first we're going to come into a pigeon pose. And I'm using it to prop my knee in case you have a fussy knee. And so you're going to spring your right knee forward and you're going to slide your left leg back. And you're going to be lifted here. Okay, so instead of collapsing into this pose, we're actually going to be lifted. So my fingertips are supporting me, my hands are supporting me. And if this feels really fussy to you, you could lean to the side a little bit, okay? That might feel better, so more of it at an angle on your right side. So that's an option. You're trying to be on the back thigh as best you can. And if you need another prop, this or another towel or blanket could go underneath your right hip, okay? Some of us are really high because we practice high intensity sports. And so that muscle, the IT band muscle that you're stretching on the right side and your glute is probably going to be very tight. So you can support yourself with something there if this feels really too much on your knee, okay? And I say walk your hands back to a degree that you can. I may be able to come up higher than you, and that's normal. I've been practicing for a long time, but those of you that are more flexible know that you could walk your hands back a little bit. So you are experiencing a little bit of a back bend here, but a major psoas stretch for the left leg if you're lifted, and that's what we're going for. So that lovely muscle that you hear me talk so much about is the psoas. It helps to support our pelvis, attaches to the low back, remains perpetually tight because we sit in chairs, and just a little reminder of why we need to be flexible in the front of the hip. So wherever you are in this position, lifted or lowered, softening your face, breathing deeply. So this pose is really at this moment more about stretching the psoas than really the outer right hip. About halfway through, we'll actually lower down, but we're not at the halfway point. We're going to stay here for 5 minutes as well. So dip your chin to your chest if you need to soften somewhere. Let the shoulders soften down a bit. Even though you're supporting yourself, you can surrender a little bit here. Good. And then from here, let's rock to our right side a little bit and slide your foot forward a little bit if you can. If that doesn't work for you, then you're just going to come straight down. Those of you that want more from pigeon, slide the foot towards the front edge of your mat, and then let's release down. So elbows come down. You've got your blocks if you need them. You could prop yourself on a block here. This will bring you a little bit closer to the mat, right? Or feel like you've got something to support you here. And if you've been practicing yoga a long time, then you know where you can go. You can go much, much deeper by just lying down, maybe extending the arms out in front of you, maybe letting your forehead rest on the mat. This is where the breath is important. And just take a couple more breaths here. And slowly rise. 5 minutes goes by really quick. So from here, I'm just going to rock to my right side and I'm going to step to dog. So downward facing dog. Hands to support you. Just step back. And you're going to feel a flushing that happens there. The blood moves in and goes back into those tissues. Maybe pedal one heel down and then the other. Let the head and neck be really long here. Shake your head, yes and no. Let's change sides. So left knee comes forward. Right knee comes to the blanket or the support, unless you don't need it. If you're on the floor, you might have enough cushioning just being on the carpet. But sometimes when we're holding these positions, it feels kind of nice to have a little bit more support under the joints. So I'm going to walk my hands back to a degree that I can. And that might be here for you. This might be as high as you can lift, doing your best. So you're just doing what feels appropriate for your body. And then square the hips a little bit. So pull the left outer hip back, right outer hip forward a little bit. Again, propping maybe the left hip if you need it. If it's too far away from the floor, sometimes, or really far away from the floor, having something there to stuff underneath. Like you could take your blanket and stuff it underneath like that, or your towel. So maybe having a couple of beach towels handy for your yin practice might be nice. So walking your hands back, so stretching the right psoas now, feeling that first before we really get into the IT, this long strip muscle. Ligament supports our leg. Maybe dip your chin in if that feels more relaxing to you. So by softening the areas of the body that do not need to be involved in this stretch, this really calm state of mind. So instead of getting agitated by being in a stretch that maybe we've never done before or haven't done in a while and we're feeling really tight in our body, can you stay soft in your mind? Just take about 5 more cycles of breath here. And when I give you that signal for the breath, make the breath as full as you can. Take deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the nose if you can. If you feel that urge to sigh, allow that to happen. That feels really good sometimes. Feels necessary. One more breath in. Good, and then let's soften down. So those of you wanting more stretch for the IT, you slide your right or left heel out a bit away from you. Otherwise, you keep it tucked in. Then you just come down. Soften the shoulders, chin towards the chest. Breath deepens. If you feel yourself struggling a bit, just know that this will get easier, I promise. This gets better and better each time you do this. So again, eventually you're just wanting more of this. All right. 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then just inhaling, slowly rocking to your left side a bit. Planting your hands, stepping your left foot back to meet the right. Just find your down dog Pedal one heel and then the other. Maybe shake out the legs. Maybe you need a little shaky shake here. That feels good too. And then again, that release of the neck. If you felt any tension building there, a shake yes, no. All right, we're going to dive in a little deeper into the hips, into what we call lizard lunge. So left knee comes to the mat. Right foot comes forward. So we call this lizard in our regular yoga practice. And in yin, we call it dragon, because it will be the only pose probably today that you're going to feel probably a little more anxious in. And this is where 2 blocks come in really handy. So you're stepping your right foot forward, and then you're shifting your pelvis forward to a degree where you're feeling, again, that psoas stretch. But I want you to step your right foot out a bit to the edge of your mat and bring your right hand inside. So if you don't have blocks, it's okay. You can just prop yourself here on your hands. And again, we're going to start at the beginning of sensation. Okay? Only 3 minutes for this pose. So you're letting your pelvis soften forward. You're not resisting the sensation that's pretty intense probably right here. And those of you that are more flexible can come to your forearms. And if you have props, you've got, maybe your forearms here, so that gives you a little bit of height without coming all the way to the floor. You could also place your towel here, rolled up, and support your arms like that too. So just know that you're focusing on the hips, but do whatever it takes to help you soften the upper body if you need that. And if you feel like it, keeping this ankle long, not buckling here, you can dip your knee out to the right a little bit, and that'll give you more inner thigh sensation for the right leg. And so this is intense. You're going to feel a lot of sensation here. But just know that you're also affecting the lovely second chakra here. So chakra energy that helps us to obviously have more sexual freedom, but also to be more creative, be able to connect to others more. So this is the part of the body where we can kind of get into that chakra and open up some energy if we need to. We usually do hip openers whenever we're working on the second chakra. So this is also that energy work there. So soften shoulders, soften chin down. You're almost done. This isn't going to be very long, I promise. Just stay with it. When I feel really challenged, I just start to see how long I can take the inhale and the exhale. So really expand that. And slowly start to back out. We have to move slowly there, don't we? Slide your right foot back. Down dog for a moment. Maybe shake your hips out a little bit. Oh, that feels good. Good. Let's bring our right knee to the mat. Step your left foot forward now. So start upright. Start upright. Hopefully you have something underneath your knee. Now you probably realize if you didn't have something there, you probably need it. So go there. And again, you can always pause whenever you need to. And just start here for a few breaths. You know, just start to kind of introduce the action of this pose to the body without being too aggressive to start. Good, and then slowly, maybe step the foot a little bit wider, and then just come onto your right hand to start and kind of shift the pelvis forward. And then left hand can come down. Again, knee could come to the side a little bit, but we're not sickling the ankle. You want to keep the inner ankle strong. So you can tip to the outer, that blade of the outer foot without sacrificing the ankle joint here. And you'll notice a sensation in the ankle that doesn't feel good when you do that. So you support it if you want that. You do not have to do that. You can keep the knee right over the ankle like this. And then, of course, you come down if that's where your body can take you. And sometimes if I feel really stuck and like super rigid in a pose, you could sway a little bit. You could move just a little bit. Unless that feels like too much sensation. Then drop the shoulders, chin, and lengthen the breath. Observing the fluctuations of the mind without feeling the need to change anything. Whatever comes up for you today, let it come up. And because this is a hip practice, some emotions might arise. You might actually feel this deep release at the end of class that is overwhelming. You may feel like crying. You may feel aggravated, agitated. Just know that whatever comes up for you is stuck emotion in the hips. It's not necessarily about what you're doing. Okay, even though you might think it is, it's about the emotions that are being held in the body that you need to release. Okay, so from here, bring your hands underneath you to support you again. Slowly back out. I feel like an old person this morning. Bringing my knee back around, supporting myself on my hands. Again, taking down dog. Just one more time. Shaking out one leg, shaking out the other. And then moving into child's pose. So just coming back to the blanket or your towel, bringing your big toes together, knees are wide as your mat. You're going to bring your chest down. And if you've got your pillow here, This is a great place to rest if you want. You can have the pillow in front of you. You can bring it underneath you and just lie down and just take a break. We're still working the hips, and I see a lot of this in people's child's poses. I want you to walk your hands back because I still want you to feel all the musculature around the pelvis working a little bit as you're in your child's pose. Close your eyes. Just be with your body. And the props are nice, especially if you're feeling like you need some support, you're emotionally overwhelmed, I know so many of us are feeling very stressed right now and very scared, and we're wanting the pandemic to be over. We're frustrated for not being able to do the usual activities that we get to do, but in my mind's eye as a yoga teacher, I view this as such a healing thing for some of us that might be needing to slow down a little bit, that don't even realize the benefit of that. In the Yin philosophy, we acknowledge the fact that it is useful to be energetic and to bring that energy into whatever you need to focus on to manifest something new for yourself or manifest those things in your life. But it's just as important to stop, slow down. You know, I hate to say the cliche, smell the roses. But how lovely is it that we're all actually getting to go outside and spend more time in nature? Spending more time with your children, even though they might be driving you crazy. I know how it feels. I was a stay-at-home mom for 3 years, so you can start to go a little stir crazy and want to talk to adults. But when I was a stay-at-home mom, we didn't have, cell phones and all that, so I couldn't connect through Facebook or my email really, I was very disconnected, it seemed like. So Austin and I spent a lot of time outdoors. We went to the park every day. Getting your kids outside and letting them play is probably the best way for them to burn off that kind of energy, the energy they need to burn off, and then slowly rise. And of course, you probably already know that, so don't mean to be telling you something you don't already know, but if you're not a person that likes to be outside, maybe explore that a little bit more now while you have time. So now moving into saddle pose. So your knees are still here. If you felt like you need a little shake out of the knees, do that again. So now really getting into the quadriceps a bit. So bringing the knees down, bring the toes together. I've got my prop behind me. It's not necessary. Most of you are not going to be able to come down very far. Most of you are going to be here, which is fine, okay? Those of you that have your bolster, you might be able to lower yourself down, maybe to your elbows to start. And this is a process, okay? So I want this pose to actually be about 3 minutes, at least. Let's go for 3. So find a position. If you need to support yourself, you do so, okay? Also, if you want to do half saddle, you could do half. So you could bring one foot beside you, sit on your left side one knee is bent and just lean back here. And maybe switch sides halfway through, okay? So that's an option for those of you that have really sensitive knees. But I invite you to see if you can go here first. And don't bring the knees together. You want to bring them wide again, okay, as you do this. And then you find your position that feels best. If you're all the way down, notice if maybe engaging the quadriceps a little better feels, or a little more feels kind of nice. Sometimes kind of squeezing the muscle to the bone feels really nice. And it might actually help to support your low back. So if you're feeling too much of a back bend here, so Yin philosophy is moving into the pose, holding the pose for time, and observing what's happening in the pose while you're there. While I'm here, I can feel that my right quadricep is way tighter than my left. Way tighter. I feel so much more sensation in the right side than my left. And if you can make it down to where I'm at, maybe you could extend your arms overhead. You could also clasp your elbows. Just options for where you can take it if you want. So if you've had surgery, or you've torn a ligament or something for your body, and maybe you just do the one side that feels safe, the one side that's not been injured. I know a lot of people suffer from knee stuff, and sometimes it's because we don't have enough flexibility. And that can also be directly related to our hips. So our hips and our knees are related to each other. The muscles of the hips that attach here also run down into and around the knee joint. So you've got the combination there. So if your hips are really tight, you may be having some sensitivity in your knees. So it's interesting to know that. So guess what? That was 3 minutes. Didn't even feel like it, right? So just take 2 more breaths here. Couple of breaths. I felt like I could have definitely stayed another 3 minutes here, but my knees are feeling pretty good today. So I'm going to go ahead and come up to my elbows to start, and then rise, or wherever your starting point is, you slowly rise out. And notice that you probably feel really uncomfortable there, and the knees a little stressed. So take it out, stretch one leg out, maybe shake it out. I love this action. I feel like it really does bring the blood flow back in. If it felt constricted, which it does, we are compressing. We are compressing parts of the body, so you're going to feel a little bit less blood flow. All right, and then from here, we're actually going to come to our backs, or actually to your belly first. Let's come to our belly and just extend the legs behind you, okay? Just extend the legs, come to your belly, turn your head to the side, and just contract the knees. So just kind of squeeze the knee, pick the kneecap up off the floor. That's what happens when you engage a little bit, and just kind of flex and then let it go. Do that a couple times. Just kind of squeeze, and let it go. All right, and then hands to support you. Let's slowly rock ourselves up. Remove your blanket. Just place it off to the side. I'm going to walk my knees forward. Actually going to come to my back. I'm going to massage my knees a little bit first. We're on our knees a little bit today, so just give your knees a little massage. Notice how you're feeling. Are you feeling a little bit more relaxed? That's really what we're going for, right? All right. So let's go ahead and come on down to the back. Okay. Let's take our knees bent, feet wide, and just windshield wiper. Bring your arms into like a cactus shape beside you. So elbows are about shoulder height. Palms are turned to face up. And I'm just swaying my hips side to side. And this is where you might actually notice how the musculature of the hips are attached to the knees, okay? So you can feel a tugging around the knees when you do this. You're feeling a tugging of the muscles around the hips. See how that's connected, okay? So you get to learn a little bit more about your body when you practice yoga. So it's a really good benefit. And then just take your legs up and let's just shake them out. Hands up. I love this action. Feels so good. Okay. Place your left foot on the floor. Okay. It's going to come to the center. Cross your right knee over your left. Okay. It's not this. It's not the four-way stretch. It is the cross all the way over. Okay. Pick up your hips and slide them to your right. Okay. That's important. So now you're off-centered on your mat, and that's what you want. And you're going to bring your hands out wide to support you, and then you're going to let your knees fall to your left. This is eagle twist. And I like to flex my right ankle. Notice how when the foot's pointed, it feels like more pressure around your knee. Flex the ankle a little bit. So now we're going to get into the sides of the waist a little bit and the ribs. There's so many parts of the body that are affected by this particular twist. So I'm feeling the pecs, obviously stretch, muscles across the front of the chest on the right side, all the muscles supporting the ribs, the fascia. And just let your head be in whatever position it wants to be in here. So we're not really pushing. If this feels like too much, you could just untuck that top knee and just let the knee lay on top like this. You don't have to tuck necessarily or wrap if you're feeling too much sensation in the knee. So you've got options. You can also place a block here underneath your knee for support if you want less. If your hips are really tight, your knee may be really high, and you feel like, hey, it might feel good to put something there. And just take a couple more breaths here. Really reach the right hand away and take your right outer hip and move it down towards your heels. So I like to lengthen the low back, and that's how you can do it. You can kind of move the upper hip, outer hip down. So if you really like this sensation of stretching the upper body, go back and do the upper body yin. That's on here. So, and then slowly roll back out. So left foot comes onto the floor. Keep your legs crossed. Don't uncross them, because you're going to actually let your knees fall to the right. Okay, so we don't normally go this way. We always, move into the direction then the knee is pointing. But now we're moving the opposite. And this feels amazing for the low back, the outer hip. My body just went, oh, yes, thank you. So, of course, your knees are probably not going to come to the floor in this pose, especially if you've got your shoulders rooted here. So just notice if you don't want to roll all the way to your right side. You want to have your shoulders on the ground. Relax any gripping in the right leg. I noticed my right leg was trying to help a lot. Can you release the musculature of the right leg a little? Take a couple of deep breaths. In fact, take 3 more deep inhales. Pause at the top of the inhale, hold the breath, and then let the breath move out slowly. So it looks like this. Inhale. Bring your hands down by your side. Slowly let the pelvis come back to the center. Uncross the legs. Pause here for a moment and just notice sensations on both sides. Right foot to the center of the mat. Left knee crosses over. Press down through the right foot to pick up your hips. Slide them to your left. Take your hands wide. Maybe move that bottom foot over just a little bit. And then let your twist happen. So move to your right with your knees. And in my yin or restorative class, I would like you just to turn your head to the right instead of to the left. We're not craning here, and we're not focused on upper body stretching really as much as lower body. So let the neck be soft. This is really where you can start to transition to that mind state of true relaxation as we begin to move towards Shavasana. So let's support ourselves with our abdominals. So engage the core. Slowly roll out. Bring your right foot back to the mat. You're staying with your right foot on the mat. You're staying with your left leg crossed over. Pausing. And then with arms staying wide, let your knees slowly move towards the left. Make an adjustment with the bottom leg if you need it. I'm going going to actually flex my right foot because that feels better for my knee. A little bit, yeah. Let's do that same breath we did on the other side. So inhaling to the full capacity through the nose, pausing, and then letting the breath out slowly. And do about 3 cycles of that. So you're increasing the capacity of the breath by doing this, really exercising the lungs and the diaphragm. So keep with that. Nice deep breath in. Hold the breath at the top with the lungs as full as you can make them. And then breathe out. One more deep breath. Which hopefully leads to more deep breathing, right? As we move throughout our day and we're feeling really relaxed. So let the center uncross, keeping the knees bent. Let's just do a few pelvic tilts here. So I'm just rocking my pelvis, so lifting my tailbone up just a little bit and then down. So I'm massaging my low back, the sacral area. I'm not actually picking up my hips. I'm just feeling a little rocking action there. If your low back is fussy, you take your blanket or your towel rolled up underneath your knees. If you've got 2 blocks, you could place blocks underneath your knees or your bolster, depending on what you need. And then you're just going to lie back and start to relax into Shavasana. Palms turn to face up. I want you to wiggle the legs, so turn the toes in and out a couple times. So in and then out, in and out. And then you can kind of get a feel for whether the pelvis is neutral. And then notice your neck. As a yoga teacher, I notice when I walk around the room and make adjustments for people in Shavasana that their head sometimes is tilted off to the side a little bit. See if you can make it center. Draw the shoulder blades underneath you to feel support on the back body. Let the pelvis get really heavy. Closing your eyes. For your final pose in Shavasana. So we keep this very simple. We actually just let go. Consider Earth's gravitational pull and allow yourself to see if you can connect to that. Maybe feel the energy of Earth pulling you down as you're in your resting pose. softening the pelvis and the muscles supporting the hips, the knees. So no effort there, just releasing. The beauty of Shavasana is that you're allowing the body to really receive what the gifts of the practice were today. So that means opening the hips, the quads, the hamstrings. If you were to jump up, run off, skip Shavasana, you might increase a little bit more tension in these parts of the body. So embrace this. This is the solidification of whatever happened to you today in class. The most important pose. And of course, if you are practicing at home, you have the option to stay in Shavasana for as long as you like. Maybe your mind and body is requiring much longer. For those of you that need to get up and move, let's reach our hands overhead and just stretch in both directions. Stretch feet away, stretch fingertips away. Draw knees into chest. Rock side to side. Or make the circles with your knees if that feels good. And then slowly turn to your right side. Pause for a moment. And then with this little fuss, slowly rise, seated cross-legged. Feeling the pelvis on the floor, letting it relax. Noticing your mind. Bringing your palms to prayer in front of your heart. And acknowledging the responsibility that you have to bring about this balance to yourself. To not only have the drive and ambition and the push to do the things that you need to do, but to also honor yourself with the softer practice of yin. This is what encourages that balance of yin and yang. Thank you for joining me today in your practice. Namaste.